A deadly attack raises calls to tone down political rhetoric.
We should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes.
We look at what state leaders are saying amid the tension.
We all should be entering the conversation now, more than ever.
Campuses across Texas wrestle with questions about free speech rights.
Nationally, we want to make ourselves heard and understood peacefully, because that's what we stand for as a community.
The debate on college and high school campuses and how one powerful politician is getting involved. Texas Democrats haven't won a statewide election in more than 30 years. Now they're taking a new approach.
We have to stand up and fight back and be an aggressive party that's ready to take the reins.
What the party's leader is saying about moves aimed to end the long losing streak.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. A gunman's attack on an Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office in Dallas fuels calls to tone down a heated political rhetoric. The gunman opened fire from a rooftop, killing one detainee and injuring others. Authorities say he then killed himself. Investigators say the gunman intended to kill ICE agents. They call the attack an act of terror. Authorities say they have not found evidence the shooter was affiliated with any specific group. Texas leaders condemned the shooting and focused on violent rhetoric circulating online. Some reactions transcended political positions, some did not.
This needs to stop.
Hours after the attack, Senator Ted Cruz condemned the shooting at a news conference in Dallas.
Politically motivated violence is wrong.
It is the third attack on an immigration facility in Texas this year, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Cruz said the attacks are sparked by rhetoric online and called on both sides to stop.
And we should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes.
Meanwhile, Governor Greg Abbott went after one side of the political spectrum in a statement, saying, quote, "The ongoing onslaught of violent and subversive rhetoric from the left threatens to degrade the most prized and basic values our nation was founded upon and must be denounced at every turn," end quote. Democrat Colin Allred, who's running for Senate after representing Dallas in Congress, said it's important to denounce violent rhetoric across the political spectrum.
We all have a responsibility in our personal lives to try and lower the temperature to get us back to a more civil discourse and to ensure that this does not become a larger pattern that we have to deal with across our state and our country.
The attack in Dallas happened just days after the funeral for Charlie Kirk. In the week since the conservative activist's assassination, schools across the country have wrestled with questions about free speech rights. And the Texas Attorney General is diving into the debate. Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager traveled to Houston to take a closer look.
Charlie Kirk's assassination galvanizing a nation, including those here in Texas.
And that's something we feel very strongly about, to continue Charlie's legacy in our small part at Stratford High School.
Students at Stratford High School near Houston started a Club America chapter this week, a youth chapter of Kirk's Turning Point USA. But after some online parental pushback, their initial faculty club sponsors withdrew their sponsorship. Attorney General Ken Paxton threatened to have the AG's office review the parents' group's Facebook messages and said the radical leftist culture of suppression must be totally defeated. Then he showed his support for the students on Wednesday night in person.
And I want to stand with you because you are exhibiting courage that is so rarely seen in adults and particularly politicians.
United States of America.
Paxton also joined a conversation about free speech in higher education in a letter asking public colleges and universities not to discriminate against conservative viewpoints.
Certainly when you have something like the killing of a public figure like Charlie Kirk, that draws lots of attention.
Gilbert Martinez is a media law professor at Texas State University who focuses on freedom of speech issues. On his same campus, another Texas State professor was fired for, quote, inciting violence by speaking at a socialism conference and talking about overthrowing the United States. Martinez simply hopes the promotion of protected political speech applies evenly.
Free speech does not protect one side or the other. It should protect as much speech as possible. This is not about left or right. This is about protecting as much speech as possible, even offensive speech.
For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
Since Charlie Kirk's death, Texas State University has gotten national attention. That's largely due to Texas Governor Greg Abbott calling for a student's expulsion after seeing that person mock Kirk's death in a viral video. Shortly after, the university's president announced the student was no longer enrolled. As our Sam Stark reports, students on campus participated in 2 events with opposing messages, but a similar goal of having their voices heard.
We all should be entering the conversation now, more than ever.
Wednesday morning, a couple dozen students attended a Turning Point event. That's a conservative youth organization founded by Charlie Kirk.
I think it was terrible. I don't think people should be killed for what they say.
Many students there saying Kirk's death has galvanized them.
When all this happened, the very next day I joined Turning Point at my university here in Texas State. And we went to an event, had one on Monday. We were there for like 8 hours talking to people, debating with people.
At one of those events, a cell phone video captured a black student seemingly mocking Kirk's death. Shortly after Abbott's call for expulsion, University President Kelly Danfus said that the person was, quote, no longer a student.
I think it was justice, and I think that a lot of people should just be standing up for the right thing, not just being hateful about stuff.
Soon after the Turning Point event started, another gathering began across campus. This one saying Abbott's social media post and Danfus's decision has led to a hostile environment for black students.
I think that's another thing that people aren't seeing is the repercussions of what Greg Abbott did. You know, he might have wanted this expedite of his removal from this campus, but he doesn't understand what he started here.
President Danfus was in the crowd at the protest Wednesday afternoon. The students are calling on him to do more to protect black students in the wake of his action.
There have been death threats that have been given to some organizations and students here on campus in the black community, and we're making light of it. We're nationally going to make ourselves heard and understood peacefully, because that's what we stand for as a community.
Sam Stark, State of Texas.
Last week, Turning Point USA posted on social media that it's received more than 54,000 requests from high school and college students to start new chapters or join an existing one. Age limits take effect for sales of THC products in Texas, but the change may just be the beginning of stricter regulations in the state. It's been more than 30 years since Texas Democrats won a statewide election. Now they're trying something new to end the losing streak, the plan, and why some are skeptical. An invasive pest that threatens the cattle industry moves closer to Texas. One state leader is pushing a new way to fight back, but he says not everyone is on board. The Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission created an emergency rule banning the sale of consumable hemp products to Texans under the age of 21. The change comes days after Governor Greg Abbott's executive order that called for stricter regulation of products containing THC. The ban on sales to minors has widespread support, even from retailers, but it may be just the beginning of new regulations on the Texas hemp industry.
Our votes have been recorded and the motion is approved.
The Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission took a key step toward keeping THC products out of the hands of anyone under 21. Retailers with licenses will need to check IDs to enforce the age limit. For many, the updated rules are nothing new.
Law is just catching up with where the industry is already at, what we're already doing.
Nick Mortellaro is a hemp shop operator. He's created his own vending machines which use the iPhone's facial recognition software to prevent underage sales.
So it is extremely accurate. Doesn't matter if you cut your hair, shave, grow a beard, whatever it is, it'll know. Place my ID inside the scanner.
After verifying, the machine will allow the age-restricted product to be purchased. But not everyone is satisfied with the new age limit.
Cannabis is not an ordinary commodity. It's intoxicating, it causes impaired driving.
Betsy Jones represents Texans for safe and drug-free use. She wants a ban on sales for everyone under the age of 25.
Now we know that the brain isn't ready to start making those kinds of decisions until 25.
More regulations could be coming. State Senator Charles Perry has asked DSHS and the Department of Agriculture to change the definition of hemp to ban the type Texans use to get high. Ag Commissioner Sid Miller says he's waiting to see if other Texas leaders agree.
So I've got my legal team going through it and reviewing it. They'll give me a summary of that, but I'm also going to reach out. This needs to be a uniform effort. Senator Perry's a good friend. He does a good job, but he's one legislator out of 181. So I want to make sure that the whole team has buy-in.
Mortellaro thinks Perry's effort is an attempt to circumvent Abbott's veto and hopes agencies listen to industry leaders over politicians who tried to ban the substance.
Trying to force those changes through rulemaking is just not the proper procedure to see it done.
On Friday, the State Department of Health Services said they would also be implementing an age restriction emergency rule in the coming days. They plan to start the process for new permanent rules on consumable hemp with a public meeting in the next few weeks.
Let's just be honest, grassroots folks all across the state feel like they don't have any attachment or connection to the Texas Democratic Party.
Texas Democrats haven't won a statewide election in more than 30 years. Now they're taking a new approach with the goal of ending the losing streak. An invasive pest that threatens the state's cattle industry is moving closer to Texas.
We can have it eradicated. We can actually stop it before it enters Texas and the United States.
One state leader has a plan to fight back, but he says he's facing resistance. The last time a Democrat won a statewide election in Texas, Bill Clinton was president and Ann Richards was governor. We had to dig into the archives for the video, and that was more than 30 years ago. Now, Texas Democrats are trying something new to try to end that decades-long losing streak. The party is working to expand its operations across the state. Adam Schwager spoke with the party's leader, Kendall Scudder, about the plan and his response to critics.
Okay, start off, you're here to announce that, not to announce, but to talk about you guys expanding offices to 5 locations across the state. What are those 5 locations and how will that differ from what the party has been doing prior?
Well, it's really exciting news because for the first time in Texas Democratic Party history, we're going to have 5 offices across the state. We're going to have offices in Dallas, Austin, and Houston that all share administrative responsibilities, and we're going to have organizing offices in Amarillo and Eagle Pass. The reason we're doing that is because in order to win Texas, Democrats have to start doing things differently. We can't keep doing things the way we've always done them. We need to build a working class army in 254 counties all across the state, leaving no community behind. We don't win elections by locking ourselves into rooms in Austin and trying to buy our way out of the problem. You can't put a sack of flour in the oven and expect it to make biscuits. So there are lots of steps you got to do in between. We're ready to put in the sweat equity, get it done.
So for those constituents who are near or in those cities where you're opening new offices, what can they expect to see out of the Democratic Party now that you're expanding?
They can expect to see a party that's organizing in their communities. You know, right now, let's just be honest, grassroots folks all across the state feel like they don't have any attachment or connection to the Texas Democratic Party. I think that's a shame. And when I got elected chairman of this party, I made very clear, I don't work for the political class, I work for the grassroots of this party. And we're going to bring the party to them. There's no reason that we should be getting clobbered the way we are out in the Panhandle. We're the party of working class people, and those are communities of working class folks. But if we aren't organizing out there, we're going to continue to just get shellacked out there. Best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. Next best time's today, and we're ready to get that work done.
Looking back to 2018, right, where it was also a midterm for the first Trump election, it was a contested U.S. Senate race. It was very close in the end. How do you plan to possibly adjust that strategy or build upon that strategy where it was so close to try and actually push it across the finish line so it's not just losing by 3 points is considered a massive victory, but it's actually winning an election?
I think that the political class learned all the wrong lessons from 2018. They walked away from 2018 and said, well, that didn't work. Instead of saying, holy cow, showing up in every corner of this state and talking to people and shaking their hands and standing for something actually moved the needle in a big way. And if we do that cycle over cycle, that's how you start to move the state permanently. But if you retreat, if you go back to your ivory towers in major metropolitan areas or in Austin, and you just decide you're going to hand all your money to a bunch of consultants to try to buy our way out of this problem, then we're never going to make the progress that we did in 2018. I think Better O'Rourke did a huge, huge service to our party and taught us what it meant to show up and to fight. We have an obligation to carry that banner further and not just let it lapse.
For a different perspective, we reached out to James Dickey, who led the Texas Republican Party during the 2018 midterm election. He also emphasized the importance of appealing to everyday Texans.
What is most important, frankly, from outside of any of his efforts or the efforts of our party leaders, is that the policies of the parties either do or do not reflect everyday Texans. That's what happened when the Republicans were able to flip Texas from the Democrat Party. It was because the Democrat Party left everyday Texans. The difference is right now we've got President Trump all the way down. Republicans are absolutely standing up for everyday Texans, and it's going to be reflected in the election results next year.
We also reached out to Texas Republican Party Chairman Abraham George for comment. He was not available to speak with us on camera, but he did send us a short statement about the changes for the Texas Democratic Party. He wrote, Kendall needs to do something. He just lost 1.1 million Texans in the last cycle. Numbers tell me he's going to lose another 1.6 this cycle, plus 5 congressional districts. That appears to be a reference to the newly redrawn congressional maps in Texas, which Republican lawmakers created to favor GOP candidates in 5 districts currently held by Democrats. An invasive fly moves closer to Texas with the potential to wreak havoc on our cattle industry.
I do not want it to get into the United States, and we have a plan.
But there is division over how to stop the species. One Texas leader says the current plan needs to change. The price of beef continues to rise, being pushed by tariffs and a tight supply of cattle. But there's another looming threat. The New World screwworm could further reduce supply and raise prices even more. It's spread by a fly whose larva feeds by burrowing into living flesh. So far, the parasitic fly has not been detected in Texas, but last weekend, the Mexican government confirmed a screwworm case in Sabinas, Hidalgo, right down there. That's a small town less than 70 miles from the Texas border. Capitol correspondent Dylan McKim looks closer at the risk and the debate over how to stop this threat to Texas cattle.
The prices for meat are on the rise. In August, ground beef was almost a full $1 more per pound from the start of this year. That rise is blamed on a low supply of cattle in the country, made even worse by a drought. Adding to the problem is the prevalence of the New World screwworm, a parasite that burrows into the flesh of warm-blooded animals, including humans. The parasite could wreak havoc on the state's cattle industry if it makes its way across the border.
It would certainly I wouldn't say decimate, but it would place a big hurt on any ranchers trying to handle cattle down here.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is already investing hundreds of millions of dollars to create a new sterile fly production facility in South Texas that could stop the spread of the parasite.
The sterile insect technique is basically by scientists, and basically what they do is they irradiate flies, make them sterile, and then release them into the wild, and they mate with the wild population.
There is no current timeline for when it will be operational. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said, quote, American ranchers and families should know that we will not rely on Mexico to defend our industry, our food supply, or our way of life. Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller said his state agency has a plan to eradicate the parasite, but said he can't get support from the USDA.
They are still hell-bent on a 70-year-old technology of sterile flies only. There is a fly bait that kills 90% of these flies. All I'm asking is just put out the fly bait and stop this nonsense.
He believes a combination of this particular bait with the sterile fly approach will kill the parasite in 90 days. He says with a pest like this, quick action is important. Dylan McKim, State of Texas.
We wanted to know more about Miller's proposal to use fly bait to stop the parasite. Our Adam Schwager caught up with Miller while he was on the road and asked the Agriculture Commissioner to dig deeper into the plan.
What conversations have you had with the USDA about implementing this fly bait, and are they even open to the idea of trying to implement that?
Well, I've actually sat down with Secretary Brooke Rollins, explained this to her. She seemed very receptive. Then when she takes it to her people, they say it's not environmentally sound. They claim that it will also kill good flies. I said, good flies? I mean, what is that? A house fly or a barn fly? What is it? That's like it might kill the good fire ants. I don't know. I don't understand that. So I'm certainly willing for a little collateral fly damage if it protects our livestock and our wildlife industry. I mean, we've got this thing. It's 70 miles from Laredo. I mean, it's in our back door. Sterile flies are good. There's a place for them. But last time we used sterile flies, it took 29 years of using sterile flies to eradicate it. If they will implement this bait from the day they put it out, we'll eradicate the screwworm fly in 90 days, not 29 years, 90 days. We can have it eradicated. We can actually stop it before it enters Texas and the United States. My goal is to deploy the bait in Mexico, kill the screwworm fly in Mexico, send it all the way back to Central America, and keep it down there. I do not want it to get into the United States, and we have a plan. This is not new. This was done by the USDA themselves in 1976. We had 30,000 cases of screwworms in Texas in the summer and fall of 1976. We did this 1-2 punch. First the bait, then the flies, sterile flies. In the spring of 77, we went from 30,000 cases to 39 cases. So we know it works.
Late on Friday, Commissioner Miller announced his department plans to start using their fly traps to fight the screwworm threat. Those traps will be placed on the U.S.-Mexico border, in Department of Agriculture export pens, and in the port regions surrounding Galveston and Corpus Christi. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.